Hello, hello. We are back with. Well, shoot, I messed up the intro. Hello, hello. It's the Doctor. Yada yada yada. We're back with another chapter of One Punch Man, chapter 161. The last chapter. The only part that really matters is we have the fated meeting of Saitama and Garo. It's the only part that matters, and also it's the only thing that really goes on in this chapter. So why discuss the other things? Let's just hop right into the chapter. So, you start off the chapter with basically Garl being like, dang, oh well, all the other S class are gone. And he's like, cool, I'm ultimate evil now, I gotta do my thing, I got the martial arts and everything. What else is there to do now? I beat up the dudes, what's next? And he's kind of like and this is like, also this is like this is his perspective just before Saitama hops in. He's like, I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about, like there's something I need to do, but he can't remember. And Saitama follows up, and basically Saitama's like, hey, who is you? And Garo's like, who am I? Well, I'm Garo, the monster. And when he says this, he actually thinks about something that Bang told him, which is that he basically says, like, follow your heart. And he says, sorry, old man. And then he says, I'm Garo the monster. I feel like this suggests, again, I feel like this is more credence to the idea that Garo doesn't actually want to be a monster / a bad guy, and is doing it out of some type of like duty or something, maybe vengeance, who knows. But we'll probably get more elaboration on this towards the end of the arc. And basically Garo's like, oh, here's my spiel. I'm the one who's gonna take down all of mankind, bring Earth into despair, blah blah blah, absolute evil, the works. And he looks pretty cool in the picture, but it's the usual villain stuff, whatever. And we kind of get like a view of his backstory. He's getting his face stepped on, and we see like that one kid he's protecting, can't remember his name, but he's also getting bullied or whatever. And basically he's giving his whole spiel. And again, it looks really cool. And Saitama just hops in, he's like, evil? You sure you're evil? Like, and then he's like, and then at this point Saitama's like, how can you be evil if you saved all those people in the helicopter, and you defeated Elder Centipede and you sliced it in half? I mean, that was literally a monster. If you wanted to be the ruler of evil, why didn't you just make him like your pet or something? And Garo's just thinking in his head, like, who is this guy? Like, how did he even see me doing all this stuff? And he's kind of assuming that he's just a peon or whatever. And basically Garo kind of tries to play it off. He's like, oh well, I sent the helicopter away so that then people would know who I am, publicity and stuff. And I mean, it's not a bad reason, but it kind of seems nonsensical. I mean, if you're absolute evil, you wouldn't even really need to do that. You just do evil stuff and people would see. And basically something that even gives more credence to the idea that Garo is just a good guy is like, he says he's evil, absolute evil, and he's going to defeat / beat up all the heroes, right? Suggestively kill, but he's gonna beat up all the heroes, right? Why does Garo then, when basically saying I'm evil, say, hey, you should change your job and not be a hero anymore, because after I'm done here at the Monster Association, which is basically it's done, everybody's defeated for the most part, he's gonna go to Hero Station and then beat them up tonight. And so I'm like, as I'm reading this, I'm like, that's so nice of him to see a hero face to face, talk to him, have this guy question him in his evilness, and then basically be like, well, I'm evil for sure, and because I'm so evil, I'm gonna beat up all the heroes, but that means you should probably stop being a hero, because I'm gonna do that today, so let me give you a little grace period, 5-second rule, whatever. I'm like, that's so nice of him. And basically Garo's like, oh, elaboration, I'm evil, gonna defeat all the heroes, and everybody's gonna be under my foot, yada yada yada. You only get two sides, either you fight me or you bow down to me, etc. Usual villain stuff, you know how this works. And so Saitama kind of like writes Garo off as he's basically being like, oh, villain monologue. He's just like, if you're not a monster, then I guess I'll be seeing you. And basically Saitama's like, you don't look like, basically he's basically saying you got no drip, you're not evil, like, I came here to put hands on somebody. And basically, we get a, like I said, I'll talk about this at the end of the chapter, but basically Saitama's just like, he was about to go out, like, from the very beginning of the arc, he's about to go out for a noise complaint, and his house gets obliterated, and all this other stuff's happening. And so he's just like, he's very pissed off because, a lot of bad things have technically happened to him personally. And I'm just like, it's kind of scary. But Garo just takes it personally. He's just like, how is this guy just writing me off like I'm not ultimate evil? It's like, I went through all this work, and he's not even respecting me. And so Saitama's like, I'm trying to blow off steam, trying to beat up some dudes, but ain't nobody around to, like, put some hands on, I got a lot of pent up aggression right now, and you're not gonna cut it because, you're just playing around, you're just kind of hanging. And Garo was basically like, well, you know what, I'm gonna make an example of this guy, because I'm not gonna have him disrespecting me. And so Garo charges in for the punch, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And even in his head, in this moment where this guy's literally been disrespecting him this entire time, he's like, I'm gonna break his spirit, not kill him. Which kind of defeats the purpose of being a monster if you're not actually gonna kill the guy. And so Saitama then, as we see in the thumbnail, smacks him with a backhand. I'm like, fight's over, I guess. I mean, One Punch Man, I guess that's a smack. We won't count that as a punch. So, one smack. But that's not a punch, so we can't count it. But Garo just gets ragdolled. He's sent flying. And then we get references to all the other times Garo's encountered Saitama and been completely one-shot and made a fool of. And so then, this is where Garo remembers, oh, the guy that the thing I was thinking about that I like need to take care of or whatever was this guy, that weird bald man who keeps on whooping my ass while I was becoming tough. And now he's whooped his ass again, completely nonchalantly. It was crazy. And so while Garo was thinking about this and flying away, Saitama's just like, oh, Garo, wasn't he like the hero killer or something, hero hunter? And so Garo's basically like, well, now that I remember this bald man, and he's been disrespecting me, once again, top priority being up this guy. Which makes sense. I mean, it's Saitama. He should be your top priority. And that's end of chapter. I mean, it ended kind of, not anticlimactically, but it ended pretty fast. I mean, like, it didn't feel like it. Last chapter had a very, like, this is like the end of the chapter, like, whoa. This chapter had like a very, like, oh, I guess it's over. Makes sense. And overall, pretty good chapter. It's actually pretty funny because, going back to the roots of One Punch Man, which is just a satire of usual shonen. Things to discuss. Things we'll just discuss. One, Garo seems to be just a good guy. It seems like at this point, the author is definitely like really playing up the fact that Garo isn't actually like evil, and like deep down he doesn't actually want to be this not horrible person, but he doesn't want to be a monster. He kind of like, he's doing it out of like some form of necessity. And even when someone's actively antagonizing him, the worst he's going to do is just beat you up really bad, but he's still not gonna kill him. I'm sure Saitama would have, assuming Saitama was like some normal guy, I'm sure he would have gotten a real bad beatdown. I mean, especially considering how strong Garo is at this point. But it seems like even in that situation, he's still gonna let him go. And it seems like the way Garo talks about himself as being at this point of strength, he kind of like talks about himself like kind of like a video game villain, where it's like, oh, I'm really strong and evil, and I'm gonna do all these horrible things, and everybody's going to be either fighting against me or bowing down to me. It's not really specific. It's not, especially since he's just saying he's a monster. Monsters generally are known for like just killing people or just doing similar to death things to people. So it's kind of like, oh, you just being like, oh, I'm just evil and I'll beat you up is the worst thing that you'll do to them. It's kind of like, weak sauce, which just kind of goes into the idea of like Saitama kind of like elaborating on the idea that he's not really a monster, because not only is he not really doubling down on his evilness, but he's also doing good things. He's helping people, so on and so forth. We had Shiryu mentioning the fact that, you know, he didn't really give off evil vibes, and it seems like Saitama can also tell he's not really giving off evil vibes. So that's definitely something to think about. And another thing that I thought was interesting was the Saitama panel with him kind of like referencing the fact that, like, you know, hey, you know, I want to give an exact quote. He says, "I go to complain about the noise and somehow my house gets blown up. So now I'm stuck trying to find my stuff by fishing around in a tide pool. I kind of feel like I'd rather just obliterate the whole planet." Now, given Saitama's top of the verse, so he probably can punch, if he really wanted to punch the planet out of existence, he probably could do that. And so him kind of like, not joking about it, but kind of like, yes, you could say, like, kind of like exaggerating, like, you know, when you're mad, you're like, oh, you know, I could really like punch a hole in the wall or something of that sort. Like, you wouldn't actually do that, but it's like when Saitama says something like that, it's like, no, that's like a real thing he can do. And like, he's not known for being like particularly emotional, and he like, well, I mean, I guess he does have his moments, but generally he's a relatively cool-headed guy. He doesn't like say stuff like that too often. So the idea that he's just like, oh yeah, I would obliterate the planet, is kind of concerning. I don't know if this may come up in a future arc where you may have like evil Saitama, or, well, I guess not maybe like evil Saitama, I guess like misguided Saitama, where like he's acting in a way that isn't really in the best interest of people, and is like gonna turn into some type of like, he needs to be, I guess, convinced not to do stuff. Cause I mean, I would say beaten up, but I mean, who's gonna beat up Saitama? I mean, the best you could do is just convince him not to, you know, do the mass levels of destruction that he totally can do and will not be stopped from doing if he really wanted to do them. But yeah, that was something that kind of crossed my mind when I saw this part of the chapter. Cause I was just like, that's kind of out of nowhere a little bit. I mean, not out of nowhere. I mean, like I said, it makes logical sense, but it's just like, okay, duly noted. And I think that's about it for the chapter. I mean, it's, like I said, good chapter. Kind of goofy. Would I prefer if they started fighting? Perhaps, but I'm not mad at what we got. I'm not mad at it at all. With that being said, if you like the video, leave a like. If you dislike the video, leave a dislike. Comments if you want to. I mean, you know, ask me questions about my thoughts on the chapter besides the video, or any thoughts or theories, drop them below. Subscribe if you're feeling generous, and the doc is out. Peace.